Hey guys, this is George with Firehouse Music, and today I want to talk to you about triads. We learned a lot of concepts in music theory, and I think that was true with me. There's when I first started learning, there's a disconnect between what we learn in the classroom as far as music theory goes, and then how to put it all on the instrument. I remember being a young student many years ago, and having a pretty comprehensive knowledge of music theory, but I really couldn't make it happen on the guitar. I didn't understand how to put those things together. So I figured, I don't know if this is going to be a series or not, but at least we'll talk about today triads, because it's one of the first concepts that you learn as far as the fundamentals of music. I think of music as a number of structures that are put together, and then you kind of combine those things to make music. And the simplest type of chord that you're going to have are triads. The good news is that those chords that you learn at the beginning, right, your C chord, your A chord, so-called cowboy chords, those are essentially the fingerings for the triads, except that we're going to make them movable by turning them all into bar chords. If you recognize that as the foundation of the cage system, it's because, yes, that's what it is. It's the foundation of the cage system. So I have all the videos in the cage system. You guys can check it out if you guys want. But I'll go over it briefly here. So what we have is, if I pick let's say a D chord, right? I'm going to have my C shape here, and I have all these tapped out. It'll be on screen. It'll be fine. Eva will do it. So we have our C chord. I'll have our C shape for the D chord. Then I'm going to have our A shape for the D chord. Our G shape for the D chord. You can play it like that, you can play it like this. But if you're really crazy, you can play all the notes into this. Either way is fine. This is not very practical to grab on the fly, so I tend to use finger either like this or like this. Then we have our E shape for D. And I'm going to assume most of you have 6 strings, sorry. So we're going to ignore the 7th string. So we're basically going to play from the 6th string down. If you guys want a video where I go over these structures on a 7th string guitar and go a little bit lower, just let me know. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to assume that all of you have 6 strings, and that's what we're going to be working with. And then finally, we have our D shape, right? D shape, D chord. Yes, we have the open shape here, right? But since we want to make all these chords movable, we can't move an open string. We're going to play the D up here on the 12th fret. So that'll be like this. And we have that chord. And that's basically the triads, right? So now we can take it a little bit further, because we have repeated notes, and a big part of understanding triads is knowing how inversions work and what notes you're actually playing. If you guys are familiar with the Levitt method, he spends the majority of the first 2 books kind of going over triads and triad inversions. Kind of implicitly on the first book and then explicitly on the second book. But we'll go over that too. So every time you have a shape like this, so we're back to our C shape, so we're here, right? I can take a look at the notes, and we more or less have a triad on every 3-string group. So I can play a triad like this. Actually, I can go even lower. I start on the 6th. So I have the 5th on the bottom, and I have this. So that's a triad, 2nd inversion. 5th on the bass. Then we have a root position. Then I have our 1st inversion. That's 3rd on the bass. And then finally we have our 5th inversion again. In that position. The C shape works very nicely because everything is sort of organized in thirds and fourths and stuff. It's kind of like a closed voice. Voicing of the chord. But when we move to something more open, a little bit like this A shape that we have here. Once again, we can grab the 5th on the 6th string, have this. But now we have a problem, because if I just do this, right, notice that now I have, the chord first of all sounds hollow, right? If you listen to this, it sounds like a power chord, because that's what it is. I have a 5th, the root, and the 5th. So I need to find the 3rd, and this shape only has a 3rd in one place, and that is the 2nd string on fret 7. So, or the second string if you have the shape. So then whatever I do, I'm going to have to include that note. So I'm going to go 6th, 5th, and then the second. Right? And that is kind of like an open voiced second inversion. Then I go to root position, I have to do the same thing. Root, 5th, 3rd. This chord sounds really good with distortion. You guys can check out Green Day, they do it. Then, not just Green Day, other people do it too. And then you have the second inversion, we have the 5th. And this one goes back to somewhat of a closed voice. So we have our 5th, root, and then the 3rd. And then this shape, which is a root position, root, 3rd, 5th. And it works like that. And then we can continue doing that with all the other shapes. The G shape is more or less the same as the C shape, where the notes are organized in thirds and fourths. So it works well. At the beginning we have root position, and we keep all the notes adjacent if we want. First inversion here, no problem. Second inversion here, and then here we can do that. Yeah, because if we do the other, we're back into the A shape. So we have that voicing. It doesn't have a 5th, but we have a doubled root. It works fine. If you really have to have the 5th, then you have to go back down 1 and do and play it that way. Then beyond that, we have our E shape. E shape is kind of like the A shape, except that the root is on the 6th string instead of the 5th. So same. We have to basically identify where the 3rd is. In this case, it's going to be the 3rd string. So this note has to be included whenever we're breaking up the chord into just 3-note voicings. So we have our first position, our first set of notes. So we have the 6th, the 5th, and then the 3rd string. In terms of the chord, we have the root, the 5th, and then the 3rd. Root position. Then we have second inversion. So then we have the 5th, the root, and the 3rd. Now we have root position. Notice all of them contain that note. And then first inversion at the top. Then finally the D shape up here. We're gonna have, this is again kind of similar to the A and the E shapes in that we have a 5th at the beginning. So we have to include the 3rd. The 3rd in this case is going to be on the 1st string only, so that note has to be there every time. We only have 4 strings. We could add the 5th right here if we want, but once again we have to include that 3rd on the 1st string every time. So we can go like this. I'm not a fan of that voicing, but it's there. You can do this as well. That one works very well. And then, so that'll be just root position. And then you have second inversion up here. Since the 3rd is on the top, there's no first inversion in this specific voicing. We can't play it. If you know the D over F sharp chord, you know that that is moving that 3rd, that note from here to here. And yes, that would be first inversion. So just take that 3rd, move it up here. Have a first inversion with that specific inversion. Yeah, you can make it work. So what do we do with all that? Well, you can use it to familiarize yourself with the fretboard and how chords sit on the guitar using either 3 or 4-note voicing, 4-string voicings. And you can play your triads that way alongside the fretboard. You can learn them like I just did, and I advise that you do it that way first because it's the easiest. You memorize the big shapes, and then you sort of break it up into individual parts. But once you get comfortable with that, what you can do is take the specific grouping that you have. So if you started with something like this. Right? Try to maintain the same string group and then move up throughout the different inversions, right? So I can go here for my root position, and as I move up, oh sorry, I go further. So then I have my third on the bass, so then I have first inversion, right? And then I can go up here for my second inversion, and then after that I'm back to root position. Notice that when I did that, I didn't necessarily play every single position because there's only 3 notes. So I'm gonna end up, if I play on every position, I'm gonna end up with some redundant voicings that I don't want or need. So it's gonna take some doing a little bit, but I think it's possible. You can extrapolate that as long as you know the big voicings or the big shapes. So start with that, break them up into 3-note voicings, and then move them up and down the neck. Once you have that knowledge, you can use that to build your own chord exercises. If you later you want to learn about the relationship between scales and chords, or how to extrapolate arpeggios from chord shapes, all those things are going to be a lot easier. Or even build some of the more so-called advanced voicings that use different, like bigger chords. You can use your knowledge of triads to sort of like hinge back on that to find some of the important tones, or like where you're going to anchor as you're building your other chords. Try it out, see if it works for you. Yeah, that's it for today. It's a very, very simple lesson, I think. And if you want to see something else, or you have questions about this, you can always ask me. Yeah, as always, we're here at Firehouse Music. We do master classes on this kind of stuff all the time. So just shoot me an email if you're interested.